All right, good morning. Welcome in. Whoa, that was turned all the way up, baby. We are ESPN 1059 The Zone. This is the Out of Bounds Show. The show is driven by the official truck of the show, the Ram Trucks. The Ram Truck at Mac Hike in Flowood. And visit MacHikeFlowood.com if you're in the market for a new or pre-owned SUV or truck. MacHikeFlowood.com. Also, our guests join us on the Yuengling Lager guest line. And we welcome in Michael McCarthy, Mike McCarthy, senior writer, frontofficesports.com. And as you know, if you've been listening to the show, we love sport and business. We have been talking about TV media rights deals and what has happened with the SEC, I guess, year and a half, 2 years ago, and also what has played out with the Big Ten. And then we may also hit some Amazon Thursday night, which I'm pretty fascinated with, too, that we get here in a couple of weeks. Michael McCarthy, good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds Show.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting us.
Well, we're glad you're here. So where are you right now?
I am in the great state of New Jersey.
Okay. All right, cool.
Believe it or not, it's Big Ten country.
Rutgers counts, makes it Big Ten country. I love it.
That's right.
All right, so when you look at what has played out this last few months and couple of weeks for the Big Ten and their new deal, it's a huge deal, $1 billion+ a year. And as you unpack it, it looks like an NFL deal. And it's also a big win for linear TV. As you know, I think we may have gotten ahead of ourselves 7-8 years ago thinking that linear TV would be gone by now, today. And it's not. I think it may take another decade with all the streaming and so on. When you look at the Big Ten deal, and what the commissioner and the conference office did with Fox, NBC, and CBS, what is your one big takeaway from the deal?
My big takeaway from this is that Kevin Warren, a former NFL executive, is turning the Big Ten into the NFL of college football. That was his goal. That was his strategy going into the negotiations, and he pulled it off brilliantly. And what I mean by that is this. He's making Big Ten Saturday football the equivalent of NFL football. There's going to be 3 distinct windows, an early, a mid-game, and a primetime game, all with a Big Ten game on Saturday, followed by the exact same model for the NFL on Sunday. The early game, the afternoon game, the primetime game. So Kevin Warren set out to replicate the single most successful and popular sports entertainment model in the world, and he succeeded. And my hat is off to him.
So we're looking at $1 billion+ a year for the Big Ten, and Fox is going to drive the whole thing. You know, it looks like the SEC, Michael, is going to be about $100 to $200 million behind per year. Because right now their CBS deal is $55 million a year, and it's going to be $300 million with ABC. Now, we're told by some people within the SEC world that there is going to be a bump across the board with Texas and Oklahoma coming in. So although the Big Ten's deal is bigger, I don't think it doesn't look like to me the gap is quite as large or big as some have said the last 2 weeks. How do you see it, Michael?
I think that's a very accurate reading of it. All of these deals have escalator clauses. As you add more schools, the payout goes higher. That's why the Big Ten deal could eventually go up to $10 billion or $1.5 billion a year. But I think you're right. I don't think the SEC is being lapped, but there's no doubt that the SEC is getting beat financially. The Big Ten has scored the richest deal ever for Power 5 conferences. That's a fact. The SEC has the better product on the field, but right now off the field in the boardroom, they're being beaten by the Big Ten.
He is Michael McCarthy, frontofficesports.com. Michael joins us on the Yuengling Lager guest line. I think we're all fascinated with how we'll consume our favorite sports, whether it's the game day experience at home, whether you're streaming it as you're mobile or on the road, or whether you're in the stadium. And I know for us, we love talking about these TV media rights deals and what they look like now and what they could look like here over the next few years. One thing, I talked to an SEC athletic director last week, Michael, and he acknowledged, that they could be 100 and change short. He did say something that really jumped out at me. He said, Bo, this will still come down to a ratings game. And our number one game, 3:30 Eastern time, against their number two game. So let's just picture Bama against LSU or Georgia against Florida or whatever. These are big brands. Against the Big Ten's number two game mid-afternoon on CBS, let's say Michigan, Indiana. He said,
Right.
We're still going to smoke them in the ratings. Your thoughts?
I think he's making a very good point. I mean, that 3:30 window is a terrific window, and CBS has done a terrific job with it. But, don't count out that big noon window. Fox, despite expectations, turned that into the most viewed window, the most viewed game window. So I think it's going to be a real horse race. I don't think, one or the other is going to smoke the other conference. I think it's going to be a real horse race. I think the addition of a prime time sort of changes the equation for everybody. If you remember, 10, 15 years ago, Sunday Night Football was a backwater. It was split between TNT and ESPN. Nobody wanted it. NBC came along and turned it into the single most watched show in primetime television for 12 years running. More than double the previous record holders like Gunsmoke or All in the Family. So things are always changing. And this deal is really changing the mix. I'm going to be very, very curious what the ratings are going to be like this season.
He is Michael McCarthy, frontofficesports.com. They do a great job covering many things, but sport and business, which we love. And like we're talking about, the TV media rights deals, linear television, streaming, all the different things that come into play for us on game day. One thing that I give the Big Ten credit for, Michael, is really going all in on the noon kickoff Eastern, 11 a.m. our time. And we call it the Tito's Vodka Bloody Mary game because they're a sponsor on the show, and it's Saturday, and it's right after game day, or the big show on Fox. But I think it's a great move by Delaney and now Warren and the other powers to be within the Big Ten office in Chicago to really embrace that time slot coming right out of game day. How do you see it?
I think it was a fantastic move. As we discussed a second ago, the big noon window is now the most watched college football game of the day. And, again, it's an NFL-like move. You made a great point a minute ago that this is sort of the anti-streamer deal, right? You've got three, distinct windows, all on free over-the-air broadcast television. Well, what's a better window than that noon on Saturday? I mean, that's a window that screams college football. Like you say, you're right. You're coming out of game day. You're jazzed up. You're ready to go. So I think it was a brilliant move across the board to push great games into that slot.
Do you think, again, both conferences are going to be fine, make a ton of money. Like you said earlier, their ratings will be really good across the board. And I still think, the SEC will win late afternoon and prime time, although at times it will not be any kind of significant gap, kind of like the Big Ten's overall deal. But do you think this will drive the SEC to embrace that noon kickoff slot even more in the years to come, Michael?
I think it will, and it should. I think the SEC is stung by this deal. And what I mean by that is SEC has the best college football in the country. I don't think there's any doubt about that. SEC, wins the national championship more than any other conference. SEC produces more NFL-ready players than any other conference. But here they are getting beaten, you know what I mean, by the green eye shade crowd in the back room. The lawyers and the negotiators. And I think it stings them. And I think it's going to spur them and spur ESPN to do whatever they can to show the world that the SEC is number one. Mm-hmm. These are very competitive organizations. You know what I mean? The SEC likes to win, and ESPN sure as hell likes to win.
That's true.
Notice them swiping Joe Buck and Troy Aikman from Fox. So I spur them to do whatever they can to remind the fan and especially the TV viewer that SEC is still the best.
Michael, you've been in the business for a while, and we have two. 7-8 years ago, people were just convinced that by today, linear TV would be done. And yet, with these deals, I don't want to say linear TV is stronger than ever, but you know how valuable live sports games content is. And so I still think it looks like the way these deals are structured for 7 to 10 years, that linear TV has at least another decade to flex its muscles. What do you think?
I think you're dead on. I think linear TV is not going anywhere. In fact, I think this strengthens broadcast TV because wherever you are, you know what I mean, you can get that broadcast signal, even if you got an old Zenith black and white with the rabbit ears. I think what's happening is cable is the one that's being impacted. I think the streaming explosion is banging and hammering and threatening that cable bundle to the extent that people are leaving cable. But broadcast TV ain't going anywhere.
Let's switch gears. And real quick, Michael, you hit on it a minute ago. I do believe, I agree with you, that the SEC and the Big Ten, it is so competitive right now as far as, volleying back and forth, that it's kind of like Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama, in-state rivalries. I mean, they want to get the leg up on the other, and there's a little maybe it's too far to go they don't like each other, but I think there's some friction between the conference offices. Do you agree?
I agree. I think it's become not only a horse race business-wise, but it's become personal. They, both want to be number one. They both see college football, college sports evolving into really two super conferences, like the NFL and the AFL back in the 60s, with the Pac-12 and everybody else, left behind or out of business. And if there's two super conferences, that means one of them has to be number one, right? Nobody wants a tie. Nobody wants to be the runner-up. They want to be number one. SEC, by all arguments, should be number one because they prove it on the field. But right now, due to smart negotiations and especially timing, Big Ten could make the argument factually that they're number one everywhere but on the field. I mean, timing is everything. Tony Romo came along at a time when everybody was ready to do all these NFL deals, and all of a sudden he went from $3 million in salary to $16 million. Big Ten is good, but Big Ten also got lucky. The timing was in their favor.
Do you think that SEC Commissioner Sankey and his consultant team rushed their deal a couple years ago in the middle of the coronavirus and maybe should have slow-played it a little bit more, and they were too concerned over the networks re-upping their NFL packages, and they were worried about the economy and so on? And hindsight 2020, it was not going to hamstring them as far as leveraging what they wanted for, again, live sports content on broadcast TV?
Don't. Yeah, I don't. And the reason why I don't is because the SEC was coming off, arguably one of the worst contracts in sports TV history. Sure. They was so underpaid for so long. Well, SEC teams are winning one championship after another that, they got at the time what was a record deal. Problem is, records are falling like dominoes in the sports TV business. I mean, every time we think somebody has the record deal, a month later somebody comes along and tops it. And I'm not just talking about conferences. I'm talking about on-air talent like Aikman and Tony Romo, and of course Tom Brady, who comes along with this, $500 million TV deal. So, sports, live sports is the last, chip that's of any use to these networks. It's gold to them. So, the records are falling like dominoes.
How do you see it as far? We're visiting with Michael McCarthy, frontofficesports.com. He joins us on the Yuengling Lager guest line. So I listened to the Sports Illustrated SI Media podcast some, and I'm intrigued with their approach, angle, theories. So we know that the NFL wants big names in the booth, like you mentioned, Romo, Aikman, among others. But they debate on in this space whether or not they really drive eyeballs, or people are going to watch the Steelers and Ravens and Chiefs and Broncos either way. What is your takeaway? It's great to have a super professional booth with big names, and I understand why they want it. Do you think that it really drives ratings or no?
It's a good question. Do I think it drives ratings? No. I've never seen a single data point that tells me these guys are huge ratings movers. Do I think they're worth every penny? Yes. And here's why I'll tell you that. If you have an Al Michaels, or you have a Kirk Herbstreit, or you have a Joe Bucker and a Troy Aikman, it gives that game a big game feel. If you have a crappy analyst, if you have a crappy announcer, it takes away. So it might not drive ratings, but it could sure as hell drive people away, and it can sure make the viewing experience, pretty lousy for viewers. I'll give you two words, that Jason Witten, right?
Right.
He comes along Monday Night Football. He's robotic. He stinks, and everybody hates Monday Night Football. Well, you think people are going to say that about Troy Aikman next year? No. And here's another point, too. These people are now the faces of their network in a way that the Cronkites, the Peter Jennings used to be. You know what I mean? If you have Tom Brady representing Fox, he's not just an announcer. He's actually becoming a partner to Fox.
Sure.
He's going to be involved in marketing. He's going to bring in advertisers. He's going to bring money into the corporation that wouldn't be there if Tom Brady wasn't involved.
I agree with you there. And Brady is almost like head of business development, brand ambassador. Like you said, he can rub elbows with Ford or Ram or roll whatever. And a golf outing here and there also goes a long way. Yeah. No, you're right there.
Fox up. Yeah, can you imagine the Fox up front in New York with all these 20-something advertising buyers? And you bring out Tom Brady to make the pitch?
Yeah.
Or if you say you're in the big meeting in Detroit with Ford or GM, and Tom Brady comes into the room and starts shaking hands, sign me up.
That's powerful. Michael McCarthy, frontofficesports.com on the Yuengling Lager guest line. All right, let's switch gears to Amazon. They have an unlimited budget. I feel like they've hired about 60 people to be on TV. Are you excited? I mean, I'm excited. I think it's going to be cool. But what are you looking for, and are you excited about the Thursday Night NFL on Amazon, Michael?
I am. Everybody's got their theory about what Amazon is going to do. My expectation is that it's going to be a superb broadcast. It's going to be just as good as anything out there on CBS or elsewhere. Is there going to be hiccups? Sure. But you got Al Michaels on the mic, right? I mean, he's the GOAT. You got Kirk Herbstreit, Kaylee Hartine. You got some, real smart people, veteran people like Carissa Thompson on the pregame and postgame shows. So I don't think there's going to be anything crazy. I think when you watch Amazon, you're going to say, this is very similar to what I watch in a game on ESPN, Fox, or CBS.
I want to go back real quick as we wrap it up with college in this whole Big Ten SEC thing. The SEC has kind of stolen the thunder from the Midwest. and somewhat the Northeast, as you know, Michael, the last 20 years. We were the kind of country bumpkins and, the afterthought. And coming out of World War II, Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, a little bit of Penn State, and so on. And then there's been this paradigm shift, right?
Right.
And we're smoother, we're more polished. It's it's the co-eds, it's the student sections, it's the tailgating. We love it. There's a little bit more, obviously, a lot more pro sports in your area in the Midwest. How does that land, knowing that like LSU goes in and takes Notre Dame's coach? Because the guy that graduated from Notre Dame in 1970 can't fathom that could ever happen. What are the conversations that you hear with the paradigm shift and the fact that the SEC has become what it is, and stealing a coach from prestigious, tradition-rich Notre Dame program?
Well, I mean, to use the analogy, up here in the Northeast, we think of the SEC as the NFL of college football. It's the best of the best. Northeast fans are a little bit different because, we come from, part of the country where college football is not as popular. In other parts of the country, although Rutgers is certainly, coming back strong. And I've been an instructor at Rutgers, so I'm, go Scarlet Knights, and I'd love to see Rutgers become a powerhouse again. But I think we view, SEC as simply the best, and we know that, chances are when it, comes down to the college football playoffs, the Notre Dames of the world will get the attention all season, and then they'll get their hats handed to them when the title is on the line. So it is a respected institution up here because, SEC football players and SEC coaches, these are the Sabans of the world. I mean, how can you argue against them? I'd love to see a resurgence of college football in the Northeast. It was the original home of college football. As we all know, the first college football game was played at Rutgers. And, you've got great rivalries like, Lehigh, Lafayette. So, if we can get college football going up here, it would be terrific.
We'll leave it there. He is Michael McCarthy. Follow him follow on Twitter, @McCarthyREB. And frontofficesports.com, senior writer Michael McCarthy on the Yuengling Lager guest line. Michael, we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Anytime, and thanks for inviting Front Office Sports.
Take care. Michael McCarthy, frontofficesports.com, on the Out of Bounds show and the Yuengling Lager guest line. When you're having, let's say, dinner later today, early evening, enjoy a cheeseburger from Bulldog Burger on Lake Harbor in Ridgeland and a Yuengling Lager beer. Good morning. Welcome in. We're going to spin the prize wheel at 9:15, and you know the drill. You'll have to be watching the show on Facebook, search the Out of Bounds show, or on YouTube, Out of Bounds Sports. Back in a second.